So then the question becomes, do I need another winger? I would say yes, you do, but careful. You just signed another 18-year-old in Estevão,
Oh my God.
right? Who presumably you spent a lot of money on, who's also raw, who's also going to need to develop. That's what leaves me a little bit skeptical. I'm just wondering with that money, rather than a guy who's a project where you genuinely don't know with Gittens if he's going to turn into, I don't know, Aaron Lennon, or, I don't mean that disparagingly, but, you know, a guy who runs at people and whatever, but there's a ceiling there, or whether he's somebody who can actually contribute in the here and now. I don't know. I would kind of feel like you've got enough of those young project type players, because he is legitimately raw. We're not talking Lamine Yamal here. He does not yet have the mind of a veteran, put it that way.
Well, we even saw that with, I don't want to go down the sort of doping route, the legal challenge that Modric is facing. I'm not getting into that. But prior to him having these issues, we saw what bringing in, and I'm not generalising here, but we saw what they paid for a raw talent and what that can be.
Yeah.
Because he struggled. And when you saw him with Ukraine, he would do, particularly with Ukraine, he would do some great stuff. But it was raw. And his first game, I think he came on at Anfield, his Chelsea debut, I might be wrong, but I think it was his debut off the bench. He came on and he sparkled for 20 minutes. I was like, wow, this is it. And then it just sort of hit him like a wall. And once the crowd started, and I'm not suggesting the crowd were booing him, but the more mistakes and the more bad touches and the more the poorer his end product got, the more the sort of pressure from the crowd came in, without being personal. And you could feel that. Watching Modric and some of the younger players, it's difficult to handle that pressure. You know, when you're having a bad touch or a bad pass and you know, skying like, you know, Timo Werner, both at Chelsea and Tottenham, you're getting in that final third and you're shinning it over the top and the crowd are howling at you. It affects you. I don't care who you are. And he's a German international. He's a much more experienced player. And I think we saw a lot of that from Modric before his issues that he's facing. And you're always, what you're buying when you're getting these players is the unknown, as Gab said. It could be that way, or it could plateau and go the other way. You just, as a manager in particular, you just don't know.
It's certainly unprecedented to have so many players who are so young. Some very young players. Bukayo Saka at 19 was mature, right? This guy, Jamie Gittens, at 20 is not. And I think that's something to bear in mind.
Frank, your thoughts on this?
Well, skeptical, said Gab. It's where I am or who I am. Because so many times, as Craig mentioned, we had that. Modric, Timo Werner, and Nkunku, even Kai Havertz. I mean, so many times we saw players coming, especially coming from Bundesliga, being very young, belonging to what I have to call a family club. Even if Dortmund is a great club, a big club, it's still a type of club where you take care of the players. You don't launch the players like that from nowhere. When it's going to be at Chelsea, it's going to be a different story. We want to see something immediately. And that's hard when you're 20 years old. You have to settle down. You moved from a championship to another. So wait and see. We talked about Colomwani 2-3 days before. Now we are talking about Jamie Gittens. So we're going to see, wait and see. I want to wish the best to the guy, but I have to be skeptical because of what I saw at the past.
How long do you wait when you're in this sort of position, buying all these youngsters? It's a very difficult position to be in. I mean, you might be buying all these assets going forward that are going to blossom and be worth a lot of money in future years, and I don't know if that will bring success. But you look at the pinnacle in English football, certainly last season, which was Liverpool, and what did they do over the last couple of years in particular with the midfield? They go out and they bring in Dominik Szoboszlai from Germany. He's not old. I think he's 23, 24 at the time, but he's a captain of Hungary. He's been around the track quite a lot of times for a guy still in his early 20s. And then off the back of success, they go out and they bring in another... I know they spent a lot of money, but they go in and bring another proven player who is a game changer in Florian Wirtz, who is not old and is not going to be in the knackers yard in 3 or 4 years, but he's not a teenager. He's not 19, 20, he's not an unproven player. And that's the difference at the moment. You have one side who have brought in some real experience and still relatively young, and one team that seemed hell-bent on just going out and going, hey, 20 years old, we'll have him.
And let's not forget who's coming next summer too, because they've already signed him, is Giovanni Quenda from Sporting, right? You spend, what, 60, 70 million euros on yet another winger, a very good winger, very exciting in that wing-back position. But then all of a sudden you go from a dearth of wingers this year to next season, right? Madueke, Quenda, Estevan, this guy if he comes, poor Neto as well. And then all of a sudden you're full up on wingers and they're all very, very young, right? How does that work?
I don't know how it works. And I think there's something that bugs me here and will continue to bug me about the recruitment is the João Felix scenario is just
forgot it.
that would if I was sitting watching and looking at these recruitment people, whoever's still there making the decisions, and whether they're all sort of arguing about I'm doing, whether there's too many of them, I don't know. That situation would concern me, that they saw the player, they saw the movie, they had seen the history, and yet they delved back in with money for a player they did not need.
I'm going to give him a little pass, a small pass on João Felix.
I'm looking forward to this.
This was an accounting move. This was a Conor Gallagher move. They can say, oh, no, it's not a swap deal. He just happened to be sold at the same time for the same amount of money that came back the other day. But this was all about amortization. This is all about being able to log a 50 million or however much it was profit on Conor Gallagher. And you got to take something the other way, and you get João Felix, and you can spread the fee over 6 years, and presto, you've conjured up 45 million out of thin air for your books. I mean,
I don't understand, and I'm sure we don't want to get in a whole program about this, but why? And producer,
You just said,
no, in fact,
please no in all of our ears.
I think we will. In fact, I think we'll spend an hour on this. No, but just quickly. Why, having recruited the money for Conor Gallagher to Atletico Madrid, did they have to spend it?
Because Atletico Madrid were not going to give them 50 million in cash. They didn't have it, they didn't want to spend it, and whatever else. So they decided, hey, take João Felix instead of the 50 million. And so that way Chelsea can spread the cost of João Felix over time, and they book the profit from Conor Gallagher straight away.
I see what you mean. That is a small...
Yeah, and then at the same time, they also thought, we're working with Uncle George. We do Uncle George Mendes a favor. This may help us down the road. Oh, look, he brought us Neto. And ultimately, João Felix is ridiculously talented. People hope after hope. It's like a bad breakup with a girlfriend, right? You go back and you say, hey, maybe this time it'll work out. Maybe this time João Felix will harness his talent. Look, he's so talented that he fooled Milan as well, right?
Yep.
In January.
Yeah, and they didn't listen to anybody.
Well, exactly, but you know what? He is, in terms of technical ability, I'll say this right now, he's one of the top 5 most gifted players in the world. He's got a whole raft of other problems.
That's the Oscars news, by the way, coming up. Tomorrow's show, ESPN FC.
We're breaking down amortization.
We are. We'll probably be still talking about this very subject. Tune in tomorrow to find out if we are.